Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the death?
Yeah, sure.
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file, along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively, the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
In other words, shut up, you stupid, crazy conspiracy theorists. Good morning. Shut up about it. Shut up. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Good morning, Patriots and pineapples. Today we begin with the great boomerang, the conspiracy boomerang. The conspiracies Donald Trump threw out there to gain power are now swinging back in his direction. The very machine he built is starting to chew him up. For years, Trump has used conspiracy theories like a tactical weapon to discredit enemies, whip up the base, and manipulate the narrative. But now that the conspiracy crowd is turning their suspicion on him, Trump world is scrambling. Let's look at the greatest hits of Trumpian conspiracy culture this morning. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. We've got Todd Seavey going to join us this morning at 7:30 a.m. Central Time. Looking forward to speaking to him. Todd, author of many books on liberty. Former co-producer with me over at Fox Business Network. Todd and I work together at Fox, producing Judge Napolitano's Freedom Watch together. Todd will join me at 7:30 this morning to talk about Zoran Mandani and Gen Z, talking about the useful idiot generation. And if that offends you, congratulations, you might be in it. Boomers are off the hook today. Yuck. Oh, shut up, Austin. And at 8 o'clock this morning, your regular Judge Napolitano segments. Everybody loves the judge, don't you? Oh, wow. Look at that. I can hit a button and make you love the judge. Judge Napolitano will talk to us this morning about a rare disagreement between Justices Sonia Sotomayor versus Ketanji Brown Jackson. Ketanji Brown Jackson's dissent in the case, which was over Trump's ability to fire federal workers, her dissent was so embarrassing that Sonia Sotomayor, fellow liberal justice, had to correct her and the record. It's an interesting little situation. And then we'll ask the judge about the Epstein files versus the Epstein list. We'll talk a little bit about some of the details of that case with the judge. Why not? We should hear from a judge on these legal issues. At 8:30 this morning, we're going to speak to a brand new guest on the Wake Up America show. I love being able to introduce new names and faces. And if you'll notice, if you've been a regular viewer of the Wake Up America show lately, you've probably noticed we've had several new names and faces as guests. And there's a reason for that. It may seem silly or ridiculous, but the fact that a month ago we got fiber internet installed in our home and that I can now stream in full high definition without worrying about any choppiness or problems on my end means that I'm a lot less embarrassed to ask bigger and bigger names and more people to come on the show. Because again, if it was Camellia and we had a problem, she wouldn't care. If it was somebody really like, that I was like, I don't know, some other situation that wasn't a friend, maybe I would feel more embarrassed. But that's the situation. Things have changed. And now the Wake Up America show continues to grow, all because we've got faster internet here in our home. So, yeah. And it is fast, but it is expensive. So donate those Rumble rants like our friends already have begun this morning, like Kim McCurry already has. Thank you, Kim. She says, pray for the flood victims. Absolutely. Hundreds of people killed in Texas. They're a terrible tragedy. It's a story that I've been watching, but the reason I have not covered that is because it is an ongoing story. And when you get details like that wrong, it really can make a bad impact in people's lives. And because I don't have the kind of boots on the ground reporters for there. If I had somebody in Texas, that would be different. I choose not to cover things like that typically because I don't feel that I can necessarily add to it positively. But so that's why I haven't really covered that story in the last few days. I love hanging out with Quest Fanning, Real Science Questions, Flo B. Tenderson, Y2 Joe 1983, and BB for Liberty over in the chat. And if you guys are over in Rumble, don't forget, click the like button. I know it seems like a small thing, but it makes a big difference. Why don't you click the follow button as well if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show? We'd love to have you be a regular guest. It's Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show schedule. Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. So set us in your calendar, set an appointment, come back and join us 5 days a week.
But a lot of big people went to that island. But fortunately, I was not one of them.
It's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're able to, you'll be...
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Interesting. Remember, this is the man who trafficked in conspiracy theories for years, used them as a tactical weapon to discredit his enemies, whip up the base, manipulate the narrative. But now that the conspiracy crowd is turning their suspicion on him, now Trump world is scrambling. Let's take a quick look at some of the greatest hits of Trumpian conspiracy culture and how it set the stage for today's Epstein fallout. Number one, the big one. Does everybody remember Obama birtherism? Yes, you do. He claimed that Obama wasn't born in the United States and therefore was constitutionally ineligible to be president. Later retracted, but the damage was done. I remember that years ago. I'm talking, this was like 2008 we're talking about here. And that kind of put him on the map, if I'm not wrong. Somebody remember, remind me what year it was that came out. But I'm pretty sure that became a huge, huge story. Of course, the left was freaking out about it. You know, everybody was throwing up shade at him because of this. But did we ever, and I remember people like coming out and like they were forging these fake birth certificates that they were pushing out there and stuff, claiming that Obama was not born in the United States. But that Trump, I mean, he trafficked in this conspiracy theory for a big time. Sandor Clegane over on YouTube joined us. I think he must be a lib because he thinks that this is a MAGA cope stream. He obviously doesn't know who we are. Bro, this is we're not regular MAGA. We're a cool MAGA. We're tech MAGA. We're Elon Musk MAGA. And if you watch the Wake Up America show regularly, you know that I always call out politicians when I disagree with them or I think that they're going against the side of liberty. Even Donald Trump, especially on tariffs. So Sandor Clegane, I hope that you'll come back and join us. Sandor Clegane from, was that Game of Thrones reference? Yeah, my noggin's cooking this morning. You know why? I put a shot of espresso inside my regular Founding Flavors coffee this morning. It's absolutely delicious. I did the Benjamin Franklin electric elixir, and rather than do a dark roast to go on it, because this is the medium roast, I just went ahead and did an espresso shot of the Benjamin Franklin's electric elixir. It's absolutely delicious. Get yours at forlibertyshop.com, or as Sandor Clegane might call it, the Griff Shop at thegriffshop.com. If you go to thegriffshop.com, you will find our excellent line of products at forlibertyshop.com and thegriffshop.com. Head on over to either one and help to unlock the bonus content today, because when we hit $75 raised, that unlocks the bonus content. And you guys always love to see the little mini documentaries, because we are going to have some commercials today, because we have 3 guests, which means I have to go, backstage to get to every single one of them. So unlock the bonus content early and often. You'll get to watch it. We'll have Todd Seavey at 7:30. We have Judge Napolitano at 8, and a new guest, Bobby Kahn, who's running for Congress out in Nevada, at 8:30 this morning. So lots of great guests, lots of interesting topics and comments. You're going to love it. So, so check out thegriftshop.com, guys, and help to unlock that bonus content. Every box of Founding Flavors coffee helps to unlock it. And when we hit $75, I'll let you know. Okay, back to the MAGA coping. Here we go. So, Obama birtherism, big one. Bill Ayers wrote Obama's book. Trump alleged that domestic terrorist Bill Ayers secretly authored Dreams from My Father. Of course, he claimed that in 2012 that the election was stolen from Mitt Romney. He also claimed that Obama supported ISIS. He floated this during the 2016 campaign repeatedly, that Obama secretly controlled Biden. These are the conspiracy boomerangs, right? He's throwing the boomerang. He's hoping it doesn't come back. Hillary Clinton started birtherism. He falsely claimed that the Clinton campaign originated birther rumors. Clinton body count suggested the Clintons are responsible for a long list of mysterious deaths. I might even buy into that one. Epstein murdered by Clintons, that they orchestrated his death. I love the videos that people are sending around of the missing minute in the Epstein jail cell video. The missing minute that people have been using AI to take Hillary Clinton and to put her in that missing minute, which was really funny. Also, the Pizzagate and pedo claims promoted online chatter linking the Clintons to the underground pedophile rings. Well, there's one way to find out, isn't there? Vince Foster's suicide, questioning the circumstances of his suicide. Don't forget the Seth Rich murder. He amplified the conspiracy. The DNC staffer Seth Rich was murdered for leaking emails. He also claimed Hillary sold uranium to Russia in exchange for donations. That was Uranium One. Secret banking plot said Hillary met secretly with international bankers to destroy U.S. sovereignty. JF, even if you believe some of these conspiracy theories, remember, we're looking at a pattern here of a man who used conspiracy theories to gain power. That's what this story is about. I'm not judging you if you really have a lot of your life invested into Uranium One or something. JFK assassination, Ted Cruz's dad. Does everybody remember when Trump claimed that Rafael Cruz was tied to Lee Harvey Oswald? Later said he didn't believe it, but only after the damage was done. Claimed Joe and Hunter Biden were involved in shady business deals in Ukraine. Maybe you believe these things, but we're talking about how Trump got to power on the backs of conspiracy theories. So, Bin Laden body double claimed, this one was real. I double checked this one this morning. Claimed Obama staged Osama bin Laden's killing using a double and had SEAL Team 6 murdered to cover it up. Yeah. That's why whenever, and you know me, I have my conspiracy theories, right? Very few, but I'm kind of known as the anti-conspiracy theory guy because I debunk so many of the major conspiracy theories. And anybody who's known me, you can go back on YouTube and see me from 15 years ago doing a debate at Pork Fest in New Hampshire It was called the Skeptics versus Conspiracists debate. And I'm debunking the 9/11 truther conspiracies, and I'm debunking the vaccine conspiracies, and I'm debunking, oh God, what was it? Chemtrail conspiracies, et cetera, et cetera. And so it takes a lot for me to believe in a conspiracy theory. But I was on top of the Chinese lab conspiracy way before anybody else was, and I was getting the attacks from my fellow skeptics because I run in the circles with skeptics. As a matter of fact, my 7:30 a.m. guest, Todd Seavey, I would consider him to be like me, a fellow skeptic, right? And I've got no end of hell. As a matter of fact, I absolutely truly believe, here's a conspiracy theory about myself. I absolutely truly believe that my unwillingness to traffic in bullshit conspiracy theories has absolutely harmed my professional career as a journalist and as a reporter and as a podcaster. It has absolutely made it more difficult for me to gain traction in this space because people like Donald Trump and Alex Jones and other conspiracy podcasters and other, conspiracy theorists, they know that you're going to ignore the Bin Laden body double conspiracy theory. You're going to ignore the Vince Foster suicide, the Seth Rich murder. You're going to ignore the Obama-supported ISIS. You're going to ignore all of the misses, and you're only going to focus on the hits. Right. So I'm taking the conspiracy theorists to task as much as I'm taking Donald Trump to task here, because this was the end result of riding the beck, of throwing the boomerang and thinking that it was never going to hit you, that you were going to find some way to get away from this. But this is a classic, you made your bed, you lie in it situation.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would.
All right.
I guess I would.
Release the list.
Seriously, we need to release the Epstein list. That is an important thing.
Will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past and how we are going to countermand missing children and exploited children going forward.
That's a very strong statement.
Just last week, the president's excellent pick for FBI Director Kash Patel vowed to work with me in releasing the Epstein records and breaking apart the trafficking rings that harm countless women and children across our country.
The DOJ may be releasing the list of Jeffrey Epstein's clients. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now to review. That's been a directive by President Trump. I'm reviewing that. All this evidence is sitting in the Southern District of New York. Yeah. So based on that, I gave them the deadline, Friday at 8. A truckload of evidence arrived. It's now in the possession of the FBI. Kash is going to get me and himself, really, a detailed report as to why all these documents and evidence had been withheld. It's a new administration, and everything's going to come out to the public. The public has a right to know. Americans have a right to know.
I know the Attorney General has committed to releasing those files. I would defer you to the Department of Justice on her timeline, but when she's made a promise in the past, she has kept it, and I'm certain that she will in this case as well.
Welcome back, everybody. 20 minutes to the top of the hour. Case closed. The Justice Department revealing Jeffrey Epstein died by suicide and insists there is no secret client list out there.
Oops. Oops. I thought that was those were some pretty strong statements. Would you say they're strong statements? Yeah. And like I saw in the chat, where's J.D. Vance on this one? I got to agree. J.D. Vance, he loves dunking on his fellow Republicans. He loves tweeting and dunking on people. Where's his shut up everyone moment? At least he could come out, we could get J.D. Vance to come out and do a humiliation ritual for us and tell us that Epstein didn't kill himself like others did, right? Let's just, Epstein did kill himself, excuse me. There we go. Edit that tweet. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show, guys. I'm Austin Petersen. I'm a Liberty Republican. I'm a big Thomas Massey stan. And my next couple of guests, I think, would agree. We're going to have Todd Seavey here in about, it looks like about 8 minutes. He wants to do a test. This is so funny. This is what Todd doesn't understand about me. He says, I'm signed in the session now, getting ready for us. He says, I would like to be able to test with someone on your end, say 15 minutes before my time. That would have been like, 6 or 7 minutes ago. So he says, I would like to do a test with someone on your end. Oh, Todd. Someone on my end. Doesn't he know I'm here? There's like this huge desk in front of me with all of these buttons everywhere. Can't see them. I used to have the camera up there, but the GoPro stopped working. But all of this stuff up here, it's all me, Todd Seavey. It's all me. We'll get to Todd here in just a few minutes. Looking forward to having Todd Seavey on the show. He's my fellow former fellow producer at the Fox Business Network, the show Freedom Watch. That's a lot of F's. A lot of F's. A lot of F's. Jesus, Austin. More coffee. More founding flavors. Wake up. More F's. 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 Drink some more cafefe. Welcome, Grizz Cheese, Luke Sacker, T-Mill 22, Y2 Joe, Thormock. Nice to see you. John and Casey. Hi, everybody. Don't forget, guys, we're trying to unlock that bonus content. I see Quest Fanning hasn't forgotten. He says the reason Trump ran for president was getting thoroughly embarrassed about birtherism by Obama at the 2012 Al Smith dinner. Yes, thank you. Don't tell us to shut up. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Click the like button and follow. We'll be glad to have you become a regular guest of the show 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time is the show schedule. So, hurricane season is a hoax, Mar-a-Lago raid execution theory, Biden robotic clone theory, Kamala Harris birtherism, media bribe theories. This is a very short list that I have for you today of all of the conspiracy theories that the Trump campaigns engaged on, Trump himself engaged in. But now this week, the DOJ and the FBI under Trump appointees, Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino say there is no Epstein client list, no murder, no blackmail, no cover-up. MAGA doesn't want to hear it. Good for them. Laura Loomer says Bondi needs to resign, and good for you, Laura Loomer. Alex Jones is out there screaming betrayal. Elon Musk claims Trump is on the list. Trump lit the match. Now he's shocked that there's a fire. The conspiracy theories aren't like fast food, okay? They're like more like Frankenstein monsters. You can't control them once they grow. When Trump was the outsider, conspiracy culture was useful. Now he's the system, and his former foot soldiers are turning on him. Why does this case hit so hard? Well, Epstein was arrested. He conveniently died in federal custody. The cameras were off. The guards are asleep. The files vanished. Ghislaine Maxwell was convicted, but no clients were named. Over 70% of Americans believe that Epstein was murdered. People don't believe the official story because the government has lied so often, including many lies that Trump has helped to manufacture, right? Trump built a movement on saying they're lying to you. And now he's the one saying, trust me, there's no list. That's not a boomerang. That's more than a boomerang. That's like a Karma cruise missile hitting him right in the head. So who do you trust more? Audience poll. Who do you trust more? Trump's DOJ, Elon Musk, Laura Loomer, or a dead billionaire in a jumpsuit? Which one? Okay, the thing about boomerangs is they come back, especially when you throw them straight into a hurricane of your own creation. All right, up next, is Generation Z really the useful generation or just kids raised on TikTok and zero responsibility? Todd Seavey joins us to discuss the rise of Zoran Mandani and the future of the socialist youth vote. Stick around. You don't want to miss it. But first, before we go, the PA Chase is back, Patriots, and we're hitting the ground running. In 2025, we're knocking 50,000 doors across Pennsylvania to build an unbreakable red wall for liberty so that Democrats can never win another major election in our lifetime. The deep state and the woke Democrats want to steal our future. I say no, not on my watch. That's why I'm glad to team up and partner up with the PA Chase. Join us, pound the pavement, and secure future victories. Sign up today at thepachase.com. Let's make Pennsylvania the heart of the movement. The fight for freedom throughout the country depends on PA. Learn more at pachase.com. To get involved and follow them on X and Instagram at the PA Chase. We'll be right back. Enjoy the commercial break. And we'll be back to Todd Seavey to talk about all that and more. Don't go away.
alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2.
The third?
Huh. The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here. And it's absolutely unapologetic. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com. Imagine bringing George Washington. Picture this. It's 1776. Thomas Jefferson is hunched over his desk at Monticello, ink-stained fingers, writing the most radical document in human history. Do you really think he was sipping Starbucks? No. He was drinking something bold, something black, something brewed strong enough to fuel a revolution. That's the spirit behind Founding Flavors, our signature line of liberty-fueled coffee. No soy froth, no climate guilt, no corporate slogans. Just real coffee, inspired by the men who wrote freedom into existence. Every cup is a quiet protest. Against mediocrity, against tyranny, against bad coffee. So this morning, skip the globalist brew. Grab something worthy of a free man's sunrise. Founding Flavors. Now brewing at forlibertyshop.com. Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the For Libert tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of "Don't Tread on Me" in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at forlibertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot. Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Petersen. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show on the For Liberty Network. All right, enough about the conspiracy theory stuff, or at least maybe the Trump conspiracy Epstein stuff. We'll get back to it when Judge Napolitano joins us here live at 8 a.m. Central Time. But my next guest is someone who I worked with Judge Napolitano with. He's been on the show, but it's been some time. He's now a writer with Splice Today, my former fellow producer at Freedom Watch at Fox Business Network. Everybody welcome, give a warm welcome to Todd Seavey joining us live today. Good morning, Todd.
Morning.
Glad to have you here, brother. We're diving into this big story. You're a New Yorker, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your thoughts about Zoran Mamdani. If I was still living in New York City up there right now, I would be, I won't say terrified because it's not in my nature to really be terrified of anything, but I would be at least a little scared about the promises he's making about things like rent control and globalizing Intifada, tearing down Columbus statues that he's made in previous things. What do you think of this guy? You think he's going to win? What do you think he means for the Democratic Party, et cetera, et cetera? Give me your take.
I think he probably will win. It's hard to say because there'll be 5 flawed candidates, including him, or 5 prominent candidates in the general mayoral election here in November. And so, unpredictable things could happen. But the winner only needs to have a plurality of the vote, not even a majority. And he's got something like 40% in recent polls. I don't know if that'll hold. Maybe embarrassing stories about him will get out in the next 4 months. But he has as big a chunk of the current polling as his 2 most plausible rivals combined, namely the incumbent independent Eric Adams and former governor Mario Cuomo, who was defeated by Mamdani in the mayoral primary. Andrew Cuomo, pardon me. Mario was his dad.
Showing your age there, Todd.
Yeah, sorry. Andrew Cuomo was defeated in the Democrat primary. But he's still running as an independent and on a minor party ballot line. So he could get a big chunk of the vote. But right now it looks like either Adams or Cuomo would have to drop out and convince all of his supporters to go to the other guy to have enough to beat Mamdani. So Mamdani looks like the smart bet right now. And yeah, he's an honest-to-gosh socialist. He's part of the Democratic Socialists of America, just like his fellow New Yorker, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And he has famously said in a fairly recent TV interview that his long-term goal is seizure of the means of production. So he's not subtle about this stuff. He sort of keeps it lighthearted and brief and quippy, but yeah, he's a true believer.
Here's an angle on the Zoran Mamdani guy that you may have not encountered yet, or perhaps you hadn't been asked about, is his devotion to Islam. I've seen people accusing him of being, an Islamist and an Islamic extremist, but Islamic extremists don't go marching in the gay pride parade. They don't believe in intersectionalism. They don't believe in feminism. So I don't get the impression that he would fit in. I get the impression that if Zoran Mamdani would visit certain Ugandan slums where he was born, that they would throw him off of the top of a building if they found a guy like him. So how would he deal with the Islam question? Will he portray himself as a authentic Muslim? Will he go to the right neighborhoods, and will he eat the chicken on rice? I noticed when he ate the chicken on rice with his fingers, I lived in New York long enough to know that he didn't put the white sauce and the hot sauce on it, Todd. So I called it out on this show because no way you could eat that with your fingers if it had the white sauce and hot sauce.
Well, and I think that's indicative of the fact that he thinks more like a politician than any sort of scary Islamist. In fact, I think it would be unfortunate but unsurprising if the right spent the next few months harping on the fact that he's a Muslim. New York City has a lot of religions, a lot of ethnic groups. Basically, nobody here cares about that. What's a little different is that he's more socialist than the other Democrats, basically. And that's probably the thing that should be harped upon, especially if it can shore up moderate support for Eric Adams or Cuomo, I suppose. And if I were advising them all and they were all listening to me, which is ridiculous on multiple levels, but I would say probably the smartest strategy at this point would be for Cuomo to drop out, since Adams is the incumbent after all, and people have a tendency to go with the devil they know. So he's probably got a decent shot at saying, hey, I'm already in office. You know me, you trust me. I mean, not that we do trust him, but I'm familiar. So stick with me, not this radical kid. Whereas Mamdani is counting on more of a sort of revolutionary youthful fervor to say like, we've been shafted by the establishment. This guy is the way out. And I don't think he's done anything to demonstrate that he actually could fix New York City or the government here or the world. But, he's got a few pet things that sound like freebies, like, he's going to make the subways free and so on. And, that's bound to appeal to some people who think like, hey, yeah, I do wish stuff were free, without putting much more thought into it than that. There are limits. There's some practical limits to how much damage he could do, which might be the best argument for him, in that you can't even really raise taxes in New York City without the approval of Albany. I mean, not that's a huge consolation, but because Albany is also nuts. But you kind of need the approval of upstate to make some big basic fiscal changes in New York City, which is a legacy of New York City managing itself so badly back in the 70s and around then. So as a practical matter, if Mamdani wins, I don't know if it would be that much different than just having any other New York City Democrat win. He'll probably spend a little more money, regulate a little more. Will it transform our day-to-day lives? I don't know, maybe not that badly, but I definitely would not predict that he would, try to turn the city into a caliphate or something. I mean, I think he's much more of a college left liberal at heart than a radical religious type. And actually, his parents are one was raised Hindu and the other raised Muslim. I'm sure he's sort of used to an eclectic, multi-ethnic environment. I wouldn't worry too much on that front. And if he were attacked repeatedly on that front, he could easily use that as a reason to rally to his defense and say, New Yorkers, look, you're an ethnically diverse and international bunch, and I'm being attacked for being like you. You're not going to fall for that, are you? And a lot of them would say, hey, yeah, that guy's under attack by fascists. I'll vote for him and spring to his defense. So if people on the right or libertarians want to have an impact, want to slow him down, you really need to educate people about econ very quickly. That would be my advice.
Yeah, let's give a, you know what? We'd probably do well. I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's happening in South America with the president of Argentina, Javier Milei.
Yeah.
See, very exciting to see. But he tried to shut down the government cable network or something that they had there, and he didn't have the authority to do so. So he decided, since he has authority over what programming was on there, he does replays of Tuttle Twins videos. It's all libertarian propaganda that he puts out on the government airwaves. So I guess if you could do some kind of public access thing in New York City, or take over PBS, or maybe Democracy Now!, and suddenly everybody would start to learn economics. Might be a tall order though, Todd Seavey, but we appreciate your thoughts on that one. I remember back in my younger days when I had so much more fire and vim, that I just thought if we just educated everybody about Austrian economics, then people would stop being socialists. But there appears to be some nature that people see the truth. You know what I like to say? Ben Shapiro has this quote. He says, facts don't care about your feelings. But Todd, if there's one thing I've learned from a couple of decades of doing this stuff, it's that feelings don't care about your facts. And the type of people who would vote for Zoran Mandani, they don't seem to be the type of people who are going to be convinced by a little thing like economics. Do they, Todd?
No. Yeah. If the right wanted to educate people about economics, they should have started focusing on that issue decades ago. And I just feel like every decade they come up with another excuse to talk about other stuff. So, in the zeros, it was all war. And lately it's been all about Trump and whether he's being shafted by other forces within the government. And now it looks like we're headed toward 24/7 immigrant bashing, which I don't think is a good idea either. Or at least if you focus on those other topics, you have only yourself to blame if people didn't find time to educate themselves about markets and regulation while all that was going on. So I am one of those people who says, in a kind of boring, moderate Republican sort of way, avoid the culture war stuff and get back to talking about econ, and you'll probably have a smarter, more agreeable population on your side than if you, well, like right now, amongst the young in particular, this is disturbing. You know, if they hear a bunch of left-wingers calling for socialism, what do they see amongst their peers as the ostensible response? Do they hear free market arguments? Lately, they don't. They hear the young people all saying stuff like, oh, maybe Mussolini wasn't so bad. Maybe we should be racist. You know, that's not going to teach anybody to stop being a socialist, you know?
He kept the trains running on time. Well, actually, no, he didn't. Those trains were run on time before he took over, but nobody wants to read history either.
Mamdani will at least make them run for free, supposedly. We'll see.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook, as the great Norm Macdonald might say. Yeah, Todd, I think you might be the only person I would admit this to, or who might even quite understand the level of the size of this admonition that I'm about to make to you. But I've actually been reading and enjoying and appreciating Jonah Goldberg's columns lately. Maybe I'm getting old. But yeah, I get a little turned off by the Groyperism, by the third worldism, by the anti-immigrantism, by the nativism and the populism. I get turned off by it because it is so inherently anti-intellectual. And it's like, in order to survive and even thrive in today's Republican Party, you have to believe everything that Alex Jones says at President Planet and Infowars.com. And then, you know, that's why this show's called the Conspiracy Boomerang today, because as you know, in libertarian circles, conspiracies are a big, big thing, which is why I think a lot of them really were happy to get on board the MAGA movement. But I kind of made the jab a while back that, you know, the MAGA movement has adopted every conspiracy theory that the libertarian movement has been pushing for years, but not a single bit of our economics or our philosophy or our legal views.
Yeah. And actually, in some ways, I might even say that the conspiracy theories are the least offensive part of the MAGA movement, in that they are correct that there are huge impersonal forces trying to control our lives. So if people are a little bit paranoid, especially about the government, that could be a good thing. I prefer that to the immigrant bashing and the trade protectionism in particular. I'd like a few more conspiracy theories if I can get rid of tariffs in the process. But it would be nice if people were rational across the board, of course. And I'm not, when I say that, dismissing all conspiracy theories. Some conspiracies happen. You know, the conspiracies to commit crime are a big part of law. So I have some sympathy for the conspiracy folk. But yeah, it can get pretty nutty.
Well, you know, I don't know how much you know about him. Maybe you know a lot, or maybe you know a little, but I was always a big fan of Michael Shermer. I've got his book here in my hand. Conspiracy. And I always recommend this to people as a way to help people sort of understand better ways to suss out what's a conspiracy versus what's a conspiracy theory, and to sort of take note of the sort of, if you're really interested in critical thinking and logical reasoning, as you've been discussing here, how to look at errors that are made. And it may be the fact that there's an evolutionary basis for the psychology here, Todd, not to get too wonky, but for example, there's type A and type B errors, and the type B errors, these are the type of errors that people like you and I might make. It's is there a tiger coming to get us in the grass? You know, people like us would say more often than not, no, it's probably the wind. And more often than not, we would be right. But the type A errors are the people who say every brush of wind coming through the grass is a tiger, and therefore we must be on alert at all times. Every potential rustle is a tiger, right? So those people probably from an evolutionary perspective, they probably mated more because on the few percentage chance that it might actually be a tiger, people like you and I tend to got eaten more by the tiger. So there's fewer rational people out there who make those kinds of errors. But we can make errors.
That's true. And actually, if your other segments today are supposed to be the conspiracy segments, maybe I shouldn't go on about them too long.
Yeah, the judge is coming up next.
Okay. But I will say in defense of some of the conspiracy theorists that there is a pattern, and people often say this about Alex Jones, nutty though he is, that things that were completely dismissed as nonsense sometimes turn out to be correct. And that may mean that the establishment needs to limber up its thinking, be a little more open-minded about some claims. So for instance, just take one of my favorite topics in this area. I spent a couple of decades basically saying anybody who thought UFOs were an important topic was a nut. But right now, long, complicated story short, there are basically two respected narratives about UFOs right now, one sort of touted by the New York Times, one touted by the Wall Street Journal, and neither of them entirely reassuring and skeptical and normal. The Times reported a few years ago that there are paranormal phenomena, and the Pentagon has been secretly studying these phenomena for decades. The Wall Street Journal recently reported that, on the contrary, there's been a decades-long hoax perpetrated by the military-industrial complex to make it look as if they're paranormal phenomena, but it's actually secret military projects of a very exotic nature without the public knowing about it. Now, either of those narratives is very different from the, say, 90s skeptical view of these things, which was just that there are a lot of dumb people out there misperceiving objects. So getting back to normal as we perceived it in the late 20th century may not be an option anymore, for good or ill.
I'm with you, Todd Seavey. Todd, you are a writer at Splice Today. You were giving me a little bit of history on that institution that you're writing with. Where can people find more of your work? Is it just at splicetoday.com?
Most of it is indeed on splicetoday.com, and they can also buy my book, Libertarianism for Beginners, at the usual outlets like Barnes & Noble and Amazon.com.
We got to get you better at promoting your own stuff, Todd, because Libertarianism for Beginners, that would have been a much better plug back when you were saying, how do we get the young people to learn about free markets? That's when you should have just said, we need to get everybody in America a copy of Libertarianism for Beginners.
Well, it's still true. It's still true.
There you go. Hey, Todd, thanks for being so generous with your time. And it's always great to talk with you, and I always appreciate your takes. So we'll look forward to reading your writing at Splice Today. You have a wonderful day, and good luck with the mayoral race up there. It's going to be a mess.
Thanks very much. Bye.
Thank you.
So what's really going on here? I mean, what's really going on? Well, experts, such as our friend Julie Brown from the Miami Herald, who has been covering Epstein for years, say that the notion of Epstein having an easy-to-access client list is likely a red herring. And that's what the Trump administration is relying on, that there likely isn't a list per se. But they are also now relying on the fact that because it's MAGA influencers who often put forward so many falsehoods, legacy news media won't push the point, that while there might not be a list, there are certainly files that can be released. There's a trove of information that the Trump administration is right now refusing to share. Information that could well point to the powerful folks who availed themselves of the sex trafficking victims of Jeffrey Epstein. If you go, for example, to the FBI vault online, you can see that there are 22 files containing thousands of pages. Most of them are heavily redacted. Now, sure, of course, redact the names and identifying characteristics of the victims. But why not make the victim and witness testimonies public? As Julie Brown points out, there's still so much we don't know from the investigations by U.S. attorneys in Miami and in New York, witness interviews in the U.S. Virgin Islands and New Mexico. Brown writes that there's still more evidence that hasn't been published, including, quote, Epstein kept video cameras in most of his residences, and Epstein's autopsy, nor the report of the investigation into his death, has ever been made public. So while there may not be an official client list to be released, as the administration is now saying, there's a lot of extra information that is not being made public, despite Trump's Justice Department basically now saying case closed. This isn't going to go away. The public, you're being played for fools here.
What do you think? Shut up, Jake Tapper. Shut up. Everybody who wants to ask a question about Jeffrey Epstein today is going to get told to shut up. And what do you think they're going to do? You think that they're going to shut up?
So let me get this straight. You're telling me after all these years, after basing my whole personality around finding out who's on the Epstein list, after all these years of saying Jeffrey Epstein didn't unalive himself, and you got to say it that way because on social media you can't say without people getting sad and then they ban your account, after years of saying protect the children, after saying there was a list, we have a list, it's on my desk, the list is coming out, here's phase 1, there's more to come. Now they're saying there was never any list. Now they're saying there was never any kids, and Epstein didn't unalive himself, and Ghislaine Maxwell's in prison for 20 years because of unpaid parking tickets. To all that I say, well, shit, I believe it. I really do. I mean, after all, I'm easily led astray, and I mean, this is my favorite game, my conspiracy theory improv. Everybody knows the first rule to conspiracy theory improv is yes and. They say some crazy shit with no proof, and I just say yes and. Shovel more of that in my mouth. Yes, sir. Can I have some more, sir? It's like, whose line is it anyway? But with tinfoil hats, it's where everything's made up and the points don't matter. Only loyalty matters, but you just gotta roll with the crazy. Even though it don't make no sense. So when QAnon happened and then nothing happened, I said yes and. And when January 6th happened and then nothing happened, I said yes and. And when they released the JFK and the MLK files, guess what? Yes and. And now there's no Epstein list, and Jeff Epstein didn't unalive himself. I say yes and. I'm going to have to change my whole personality and get a tattoo covered up, but yes and. I mean, why would they lie? Why would they lie about something like, why would they tell a lie? Why would they cover up something like,
All right. Next guest, Judge Andrew Napolitano. He'll talk about that. Also, a rare disagreement between Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson. We'll be right back. I always get those last two and confused. We'll be right back with the judge. I hear those robes rustling. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network.
Legend has it, back in 1773, a band of angry, overtaxed patriots stormed a British ship, found the king's favorite tea, and said, "This would taste better without the tyranny." Then they tossed it overboard. Fast forward to today. That revolutionary spirit lives on in Boston Harbor Black, the boldest brew in the 4 Liberty tea lineup. It's dark, it's smooth, it's unapologetically American, just like the folks who drink it. Whether you're sweetening it up on the front porch or drinking it straight like a Minuteman before battle, this isn't tea for royalty, it's tea for rebels. No fake flavors, no corporate slogans, just a cold glass of Don't Tread on Me in liquid form. So skip the woke iced tea aisle and stock up on Boston Harbor Black at 4libertyshop.com. Because when the heat's rising, the least you can do is drink like a patriot.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2. The third? Huh. The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here, and it's absolutely unapologetic. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com. When the Founding Fathers dreamed of liberty, they forgot one thing: coffee. Introducing Founding Flavors Coffee, the brew that built America, and the brew that's fueling a new revolution, one kitchen at a time. Small
along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word
Alex,
these days.
I have to say, I'm with the people that still have questions about this. I kind of don't buy the nothing to see here, and I don't know that the Justice Department helped their case. They released this video. Let's show it. It shows no one entered the area surrounding Epstein's cell in the hours before he died. But there's something significant about this videotape. What is it?
Well, here's one thing that some people on the internet are picking up on, which is that there is about a minute missing between 11:58 p.m. 58 seconds and 12 a.m. the night that Epstein was apparently killed or died.
No, I'm sorry. He wasn't killed. He committed suicide. At least that's what the FBI director and the co-director, deputy director want us to believe. Now Trump tells us we need to stop talking about it. And it's ignited something like a MAGA civil war. If it wasn't the tariffs, it wasn't any of the other stuff. It wasn't the bombing of Iran. But the Epstein stuff may have been a bridge too far. What is that I hear? Is that robes swishing? All rise now. The great Judge Andrew Napolitano joining us live on the Wake Up America show, host of Judging Freedom, which you can download on any of your fine mobile platforms. Good morning, Judge, and welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Austin. A pleasure to be with you, no matter what we are discussing.
Lots to discuss, Judge. We'll talk about an interesting disagreement between the two of the liberal Supreme Court justices here in just a moment, but I wanted to get your take on this. I'm calling it the conspiracy boomerang. Donald Trump sort of rode to power on the backs of many of these conspiracy theories. And now it's a bit of, the Tyrannosaurus Rex that he kept as a pet is now full grown and is ready to devour him. What's your take on this story?
Well, my take on the story is that Jeffrey Epstein was a Mossad asset who lured people to his island for the purpose of blackmailing them, and that Mossad has the list and knows exactly whose names are on it. I also believe that Epstein was murdered. My belief for the murder is based on the testimony of Dr. Michael Baden, who's the country's foremost pathologist, one most frequently used and relied on by the government, who examined the medical records and concluded without any question that it would have been impossible for him to have broken his neck by himself, the manner in which his neck was actually broken. There is no rational basis for the missing tape of events in his jail cell. As for the list of clients or people that interacted with Epstein on that island, a federal judge has seen it. She ordered it released. Lawyers have seen it. They objected or concurred, depending upon which side they were on. The president himself ordered it released. The attorney general said it was on her desk and she was reviewing it. The two gentlemen running the FBI clamored for years for it to be released. Now that they're on the inside and they know more about it than we do, they don't want it released. It's obviously very fishy, and it's going to explode in the lap of the attorney general. It may not be her personal fault, but she is the highest ranking official supervising all of this, and she's not given satisfactory explanations.
Judge, you are not the only person who has floated a similar theory to me. As a matter of fact, yesterday I spoke to another very prominent, well-known libertarian that both you and I know, who I will not name, but he actually believes as well that this was an influence operation, that intelligence agencies used this information to acquire blackmail on prominent officials, people like Prince Andrew and other powerful people around the world, and that is the reason that it's being suppressed. If Donald Trump himself is not, as Elon Musk has said, he's on the list and was someone who partook, could it be that Donald Trump thinks that for national security purposes, that releasing this, if that is the case, would be dangerous to the national security of the United States, would compromise intelligence operations that are perhaps even ongoing?
I doubt that he thinks that. He probably only thinks about the humiliation and embarrassment of seeing his own name. If indeed his name is on the list. Look, he was on the island. There's pictures of him there. It doesn't mean that he engaged in activity with underage girls or engaged in sexual activity with appropriately aged girls. But it does mean that he has done a 180 degrees on this. Look, he called for and ordered the release of the list. He must have known at the time whether or not his name was on it. Let's say his name is not on it, and he wants it released. Well, why are they not releasing it now? And why are they giving something as absurd as there is no list? Ghislaine Maxwell, one of Epstein's many enablers, the only one that was prosecuted and is serving 20 years in a federal prison, says there was a list and she's seen it. And she had it. So there's something fishy here. I normally don't cheer on the social media crowd or the MAGA crowd when they get something caught between their teeth, but I do cheer them on now. They got to keep pounding the table on this.
That's a really good metaphor there, Judge. Thank you very much for that. One last question on this topic, and feel free to run with it as you please. What do you make of this missing minute of footage outside of Jeffrey Epstein's jail cell? How does something like that even happen in a federal prison?
Well, the federal prisons are terribly mismanaged. Nearly all prisons are, because there's no public pressure to manage them properly. There's no political pressure coming from prisoners or the families of prisoners. The Attorney General claims that there's a minute missing every night at the same time, that the system is not computerized, that it's an old-fashioned videotape, and they rewind the tape and reuse it during that minute. I don't buy that. I doubt that she's lying. She's probably just being misled, but that's the answer she has given. But there's really no justification. If that's true, it is gross negligence, maybe even criminal negligence, to allow somebody that's on a suicide watch, who has much to lose by going to trial, not to be surveilled in a federal prison in New York City. So I can't. That's all I know about it. I can't put my finger on exactly why that portion of the tape is missing, other than whoever got in the cell knew how to turn the tape off so that they wouldn't be seen in the cell.
Judge, two major topics that we are discussing this morning, both trending right now live at 8:10 a.m. Central Time, 9:10 a.m. Eastern Time, where you are. One being Epstein Island, that topic that we just discussed, and the second, Sotomayor. A big story right now. Sotomayor and Ketanji Brown Jackson having a rare moment of disagreement, two liberal justices. And Sonia Sotomayor is now trending because of the disagreement that she had with her fellow Justice Jackson. And this is the Supreme Court case that lifted injunctions on Trump's plan to cut the federal workforce. Sotomayor joined the conservative majority, KBJ. She dissented hard, warning of a wrecking ball. What's your take of this dust-up between these two justices and the case in total?
I don't think the dust-up is very significant, because this is a creation of Chief Justice Roberts, of which many of us have been harshly critical, the so-called emergency docket, where they rule like that in 2 or 3 days without giving reasons. When the Supreme Court just issues orders and doesn't give reasons for the orders, it doesn't inform the litigants. It doesn't inform lower court judges. It doesn't inform the legal community. It's just as if some dictator is saying yes, no, stop, go. It does tremendous damage to the credibility of the court. So whatever Justice Jackson is dissenting from, and whatever Justice Sotomayor is concurring with, it's not written down. There's no opinion by the justices, because there were not full briefs. There was not oral argument. Maybe there will be someday. This is just the emergency ruling. The facts are that Congress authorized X billion dollars to be spent. The president can decide how many people he wants to hire. A federal judge said, well, your predecessors have hired all these thousands of people. You can't just fire them. You're going to have to present a plan to show that with a reduced number, you can still do what Congress told you to do when it said to spend this money. The majority said, okay, you can have a jury trial, but you can fire them in the interim. So I probably would have been with Justice Jackson on this if I were on the court. But this is the emergency docket. So they're not even together. The 9 of them are spread around the country. They do this by Zoom like we are now. And they do it in a couple of minutes. They don't do it with adequate briefings and with oral arguments. And as I said, they're all around the world, teaching at various exotic locations where law schools set up these summer programs for 2 weeks, essentially to add to the compensation of Supreme Court justices and give their students an opportunity to interact with Supreme Court justices in places like Rome, Paris, and Florence. So I don't give that much credibility to this dispute between the two of them, because we can't predict how the trial, I think the trial's in Boston, in federal court in Boston. We can't predict how the trial is going to end up. What is the trial about? The trial is about whether or not the federal government can continue to provide the services that Congress paid for with a reduced workforce. Now, you and I are very much in favor of reduced workforce. You and I believe that 90% of what the federal government does shouldn't do because it's not authorized by the Constitution. However, while those laws are there, the president is required to comply with them. This is the duty of the Congress. This is what Justice Jackson said, not a president, to reduce the Department of Commerce from 50,000 employees to 5,000. I'm just using that as a hypothetical example.
Judge, we've only got you, unfortunately, for a few more minutes, so I want to give you the opportunity to share with our audience who you've got coming up on your wildly successful show, Judging Freedom.
Well, today I have Max Blumenthal, who has some inside scoop on what Netanyahu and Trump were talking about in the presence of Mossad officers in the Oval Office, the only foreign intelligence agents that are permitted in the White House. I have Larry Wilkerson, Colonel Wilkerson, who was Colin Powell's chief of staff for many years and now is an ardent, fierce, tenacious critic of the Bush-Cheney years and of the warfare uniparty coming out of Congress. And I have Phil Giraldi, the famous CIA agent who told George W. Bush Saddam Hussein does not have weapons of mass destruction. And then Bush threw him out of the Oval Office. That's my team for the rest of the day.
Well, our audience should definitely check out Judging Freedom on any of their mobile devices, wherever you get your podcasts, but also read your weekly column at judgenap.com. Judge, what about your column this week? What are we talking about?
We're talking about, for years, the federal government kidnapped people in foreign countries and brought them here for trial because of an argument that they harmed Americans or harmed American assets in foreign countries. And every time one of these people raised the issue of I was kidnapped, I was beaten, these federal agents that brought me here violated the laws they're charged with enforcing, the courts have said, we don't care how you got here, we're just going to try the case. In the Biden administration, a Republican Congress enacted legislation that permits the federal government to kidnap people in foreign countries who've committed foreign crimes in foreign countries against foreign people with no connection to the United States and bring them here for trial. And one of those occurred last week, and you wouldn't even know it because it got no publicity whatsoever. The former head of military intelligence for Venezuela pleaded guilty to distributing drugs in Venezuela. What is he doing here? They probably want him to spill some beans on Nicolas Maduro, who's the president/dictator of Venezuela. In order to do that, they kidnapped him from Spain and brought him here. It's reprehensible what the government does.
Judge,
I've written a number of books. You have all of them. The first one is called Constitutional Chaos: What Happens When the Government Breaks Its Own Laws. This is an example of the government breaking its own laws, kidnapping people in foreign countries. This legislation that Joe Biden signed, which Donald Trump is using, allows him to pick anybody in any country, anywhere in the world, and try them here for a crime they committed there. No American connection, no American victim. In my view, no American jurisdiction. But Congress has told federal courts they have to hear these cases.
Lies the government told you, the author of Theodore and Woodrow, A Nation of Sheep That Got Me Into the Libertarian Movement. And of course, it is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong. The great Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, we won't see you for a couple of weeks. Enjoy your vacation. And we look forward to hearing from you again at the end of July.
Thank you, Austin. All the best to you.
Have a good one.
But how can you say that thousands of children were raped, but I'm not going to find out who raped them? Yeah. How can you say that?
I agree completely.
They said that. By the way, when Pam Bondi went on television and said, I have a videotape of kids getting abused, I followed this case closely, and I know a lot of the people involved, as I've told you. Mm-hmm. I had no idea. I didn't know that. Really? Thousands of children got raped?
Yeah.
Who raped them? Where are the rapists? Like, why aren't they in jail? This is the Department of Justice.
Yes.
That is so crazy. This is honestly one of the craziest things I've ever seen in my entire life. And I just think it's very dangerous to play around with this stuff. Like very dangerous.
Well,
I don't want a revolution, but if you wanted a revolution, this is how you would act.
Yes, yeah.
Here we go. You say you want a revolution. Well, you know, we want to know where the kids got raped.
Jeffrey Epstein, it left some lingering mysteries. One of the biggest ones is whether he ever worked for a American or foreign intelligence agency. The former Labor Secretary, who was Miami U.S. Attorney Alex Acosta, he allegedly said that he did work for an intelligence agency. So could you resolve whether or not he did? And also, could you say why there was a minute missing from the jailhouse tape on the night of the set?
Yeah, sure. If
Pam, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Shut up.
This guy's been talked about for years.
Time to shut up.
You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this, where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I said, I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively. The video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every year, every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
And that's it on Epstein. It's all done. What do you guys think about that? Want to hear your thoughts. Did you know you can send me a text at 573-319-1586? That's 573-319-1586 is the text line. We love to hear from you, your thoughts on that story. You can also text us about anything you like, including questions about your order. Austin, I wanted to unlock the bonus content. I bought a box of coffee. I want to get my tracking number. How can I find my tracking number? Austin, what do? You send us a text, 573-319-1586. We've raised about $40 towards the bonus content goal. Once we hit $75, that will unlock the bonus content. Here's what you should do. You should go to thegriftshop.com. That's THE, thegriftshop.com. Head on over there and get yourself one of these shirts that Javier Milei was wearing as a young man. Take a look here. You can see Javier Milei as a young punk there in Argentina. Here he is with his Don't Tread on Me shirt. That shirt is available. Look at this Chad. It looks like Chum-Li from Pawn Stars. Maybe it is. Javier Milei in 1991. Here you've got him with his Don't Tread on Me shirt. You can get that Don't Tread on Me Gadsden shirt at thegriftshop.com. Get yourself, like, maybe you'll be president of one of the largest countries in the world if you wear that at thegriftshop.com. Head on over to thegriftshop.com, and if you buy a t-shirt during the Wake Up America show's live show, that will count towards the unlocking the total. Go to thegriftshop.com. Type in Don't Tread on Me. We might have one of the biggest Gadsden collections on the internet. Look at this. Beach towels. Our Don't Tread on Me beach towels are kind of badass, not going to lie. These are like this new design that we made for it, but we have the classic ones with outdoor mats, pet bandanas. We also have the Don't Tread on Me Lego onesie. We need to get that one for Hazel. But here's the Javier Milei special. You can see the Don't Tread on Me tee. You can get that at forlibertyshop.com. We've got it in black, military green, the original yellow and black, dark heather, and Irish green, if anybody's Irish out there. Oh, shy. Go to thegriffshop.com. thegriffshop.com. Go to thegriffshop.com. Get yourself one of our Don't Tread on Me tees. You can get the black one with the yellow snake there, just like Javier Milei in 1991. Look at that, Chad. Was ein Chad, says die Libero. Einmal Ankap, immer Ankap. Es gibt keinen Ich war mal Anarcho-Kapitalist, aber hier das beste Spielfreiheit hat kein Aber. I have no idea what any of these German people are saying, but it has something to do with Javier Milei, so there we go. Get yours at thegriffshop.com. That's thegriffshop.com. And you'll unlock that bonus content. A little nervous, guys. I want to have a situation where we don't unlock the bonus content. When we don't, it goes away forever, and you guys never get to see it. So don't miss out. Make sure that you're doing those Rumble Rant donations and that you're going to the Griff Shop during the commercial breaks, because when you go to the commercial breaks, you're watching the commercials instead of all of the great bonus content that you could be watching here. My next guest, Bobby Kahn.
If you're a tip worker, you should be pretty upset with Dina Titus today because she voted against no taxes for tips. She voted against no taxes for overtime, and she voted against no taxes for Social Security. That's Dina Titus. It's time to send this rust bucket to a retirement home because she obviously doesn't care for you. She doesn't care about the residents of Nevada and the people of our state. She only cares about party lines and voting with her party. And she, once again, sold out her own people.
Is that a lime green Lamborghini back there? I got a lot of questions for Bobby Kahn. He's running for Congress out there in Las Vegas, Nevada. Let's hear from him when we get back. It's the Wake Up America show, and now you get commercials. $35 more. That's all it's going to take. Go buy a t-shirt, buy a box of coffee. You've got it unlocked. You get to watch that instead of the commercials. Bonus content, so much more fun. More fun. American bonus content. So big. So big. We got to see you guys soon.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2. The third? Huh. The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.
This summer isn't about sunscreen and safe spaces. It's about liberty, laughs, and looking like a red, white, and righteous badass. Welcome to the Summer of Freedom collection. Beach towels bold enough to trigger a liberal arts professor. Tank tops louder than a 4th of July fireworks finale. And mugs that scream, "Don't tread on my caffeine." Whether you're storming the sandbar or just grilling like George Washington with a Bluetooth speaker, this is the gear that lets everyone know. You're not here to play woke. You're here to play cornhole with conviction. So crack open a cold one, fire up the freedom, and rock the merch that makes communists cry. The Summer of Freedom is here. And it's absolutely unapologetic. Patriots, listen up. The sun's out, the shades are on, and the Gulf of America is wide open for business. This summer, don't show up to the beach looking like a landlocked liberal. Gear up with the Gulf of America collection. Towels, tumblers, shirts, hats, fanny packs, because nothing says freedom like cannonballing into liberty with style. Whether you're grilling burgers, catching waves, or just flexing on social media, do it draped in stars, stripes, and pure American greatness. The Gulf of America isn't just a place, it's a lifestyle. Hit forlibertyshop.com and roll into summer like the Founding Fathers just handed you the keys to the coast. Beaches, BBQs, and bald eagles approved. You should too. Head over to forlibertyshop.com and get your Gulf of America gear. Summer is coming fast. That's forlibertyshop.com. Imagine bringing George Watt with gear that would have made...
Welcome back to the Wake Up America show. Thank you so much for hanging out with us this morning, everyone. Don't forget to click like if you haven't already. And if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America show, click the follow button as well. If you're watching us over at rumble.com/AP4Liberty today, when you click the like button, you click the follow button, you become a regular viewer. Mondays through Fridays, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That's the Wake Up America show schedule, and we're sticking to it. All right, no taxes on tip. Turns out that I got a little excited too early, because if I was a cocktail waitress in Las Vegas wearing some skimpy little outfit, then the first $25,000 of my tips would be tax-free. Great, but I'm not. I'm a podcaster / streamer, and all of the Rumble rant donations that you guys this morning, unfortunately, well, taxable income. I'm not in the industry, but a man who has, when he becomes a congressman out there in Nevada District 1, has a lot of constituents that are going to be benefited by the No Taxes on Tips Act. His name's Bobby Kahn, runner for Congress against what he calls the Rust Bucket. Joining us live this morning. Good morning, Bobby. Welcome to the show. Doing good, brother. Welcome to the Wake Up America show.
They don't shower you with tips either?
Yeah. No, they give me tips.
Some skin there.
No. I definitely. Last week, I told him I'd give him. I'd take off of my shirt if I got enough in tips, and they didn't know when they hit the amount raised that I was wearing an American flag tank top underneath. So
listen, let's not. I don't want that visual. Okay?
Bobby, tell us about Trump's No Tax on Tips Act. That'll affect a lot of people in your district.
It will. I mean, listen, at the end of the day, that's what he campaigned on. It's going to affect them. Like if you collect tips, which is obviously a big part of this industry here, up to $25,000, you don't have to pay taxes on. Anything over that. And it's, I mean, a lot of people don't know this. It's only up until 2028. It's not a full-time, long-term thing. Obviously, it's going to get reevaluated in 4 years or a couple years from now. But I mean, that's a good thing. I mean, still, no taxes on $25,000 goes a long way. It helps out. I mean, any relief is better than no relief at all. And at least he kept his promise when he said no taxes on tips.
Yeah, absolutely. There are some caveats in this that are important for people to understand. I've suggested they read the fine print because you know how Congress does things. You're still subject to a 7.65% payroll tax. Doesn't apply to undocumented workers, and of course, if you have not been reporting your tips before, then it
doesn't make a difference anyway. Exactly. So this is for people that were legitimately saying, "Hey, I made $50,000 in tips this year, and now this is what I'm paying." So, and you and I both know a lot of people didn't do that. But hey, it's a little bit of relief, and obviously the no taxes on Social Security and the no taxes on overtime.
Bobby, now you were a restaurant worker, right? So I mean, you kind of know how.
No, I'm not a restaurant worker.
You weren't. I thought that someone had told me that you worked in the restaurant industry at one point.
No, when I was a kid, I worked for my father. My father had restaurants. I was 12 years old. That's when I worked for him.
Well, sure. So you know how this is going to affect people then.
Oh yeah, of course. Listen, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a big thing because I mean, a lot of these people that are in the service industry, they rely on tips. Their regular wage is next to nothing. I mean, they're getting below minimum wage, but they live on tips. So if they can legally keep their tips without having to hide it, that's great. I mean, obviously they earn a lot more than $25,000 in tips, but it's a relief. It's something.
Bobby, a lot of times people are complaining about the base rate of wages, people's wages not being able to keep up with inflation. If you're running for Congress now, if you become a congressman, inflation is kind of a federal issue. It's a big question of how to deal with it. What's your plan?
Well, the problem is, everybody wants to go out there and say, let's just raise the minimum wage. Okay, if you raise the minimum wage without reducing other things, all you're doing is printing money. And then, for example, McDonald's California goes out to $20 minimum wage, right? They went all AI because you can't afford it, because that $20 an hour means you have a $10 Big Mac. There's things that you have to do, and you just can't just start printing and money and writing, hey, we're going to write you $20 an hour. It doesn't work that way. We have to work on everything else. We have to start lowering costs on everywhere else in order for it to make sense. And nobody wants to look at the big picture. They just want to go out there for the soundbite and say, I want minimum wage to be $15 an hour, which is like what my opponent wants to do right now. On a federal level.
Go ahead.
Yep, go ahead.
No,
No,
just gonna. No, go. Please go.
Okay, yeah, because her whole goal is she's like, I want to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour. Great, but you got to look at the whole picture. If you start telling businesses you need to raise it, all that's going to do is raise the costs and everything. I'm just going to break it down as basic as possible so people understand it. If I'm a business owner, let's just say I'm McDonald's, and tomorrow I have to pay all my employees $15 an hour. But if nothing else is going down, the cost on nothing else is going to go down. You know, oil is expensive, everything else is expensive. Well, then guess what? I have to raise the price on my product. So my consumer that walks in that was getting the Happy Meal for $1.99 is now going to pay $10.99 for the Happy Meal, because otherwise, or I'm going to have to fire all my employees and go fully automated, which I don't know if you walked into McDonald's out here, we have McDonald's here that really have like 3 or 4 people working there because it's become fully automated. What'd you do? All you did was get rid of the jobs. You didn't actually help anybody. It's a whole thing. You have to sit there and bring energy costs down. You have to bring costs down on everything. Interest. I mean, it's a whole thing you have to work on. It's a big thing. And Congress doesn't like to pay the attention to the whole picture. They just want to pay attention to whatever Fox News and CNN tonight's going to put out there. That's it.
I'm speaking of Bobby Kahn. He's running for Congress in Las Vegas's congressional district. That's Nevada 1. He's talking to us a little bit about the No Taxes on Tips Act. If you're enjoying this content, or if you have a question for me or for Bobby, you can send us a text at 573-319-1586. Andy Opperman, he gave me a $20 tip, and I didn't even have to take off my shirt. He says, pay your bill with a card and leave a cash tip and watch your server smile. Cash tips from here on out. He says, sorry for the electronic record, AP. Yeah, I will have to report that now.
Listen, I'm all for that. So I'm a big tipper. I grew up I grew up around the casinos, right? And I'm all for cash tips. The thing is, it makes the employees happy and they remember you.
Absolutely. Bobby, now you're new to the Wake Up America show, so I imagine our listeners are a little bit curious about who you are as a man. I just showed a clip of you. I played a clip of you before you came on the show that showed you sitting in front of what looked like a green Lamborghini talking about that old rust bucket. So who is this guy? Who's Bobby Kahn? Why are you running for Congress?
All right. So, you want the long or the short of it?
Whatever you feel.
Okay. Listen, if you got time, I'll talk about it. So,
go ahead.
I'm not a politician by any means. I hate politics. I've always followed it. I always thought that we had people, I was one of those people that was taught to believe that our government has our best interest at heart. Well, they don't. I got into the exotic car business when I was a kid. I was supposed to be a lawyer, decided I didn't want to do it, dropped out of college, and I got very successful at a very young age. And I had my own business, and I was exporting exotic cars all over the world. Exotics, hypers, classics. Life was good, and at 24 years of age, I got wrongfully accused of a crime. I got hit with state and federal charges, and they wanted to lock me up for 40 years. And as I'm locked up in custody for 11 months fighting for bail, they wouldn't give me bail. The federal government comes to me and says, we have a 97% conviction rate. So that means if you go to trial and you lose, you're going away for 40 years. Or you could take this plea deal for 5 years and walk away in maybe 3.5 years. And I'm going to be totally blunt because that's how I am. And I'm not campaigning, trying to be fake or anything. And I looked at this U.S. attorney and the 3 FBI agents sitting in this room. And I looked over at my lawyer and I said, so you have a 3% loss rate. And they said, yeah, you want to risk it? I said, you know what? Take your fucking offer and shove it up your ass. And I'm going to trial. And they looked at me and they said, all right, you're going to regret it when you're going away for 40 years. So I go to trial. I went to trial on my state charges first because the U.S. attorney and the district attorney were related. So when they charged me with my state charges, all of a sudden the feds charged me too. I went to trial, and within 45 minutes, the jury comes back and says, not guilty on all counts. And the feds dismissed their charges too. And my lawyer looked at me that day and he said, Bobby, you're fucked. And I said, what's that supposed to mean? I just won. He said, you won today. You lost for the rest of your life. And I said, explain that. He goes, you just walked away from federal charges. He goes, do you know how many people walk away from federal charges? Less than 3%. And he goes, you're young, you're flashy, you got money. And he goes, you're a loudmouth. You're done. They're going to paint a target on your back. And for the rest of your life, they're watching you. So I went on and business was good. I lived the life, and I can never say I ever wanted for anything. I enjoyed my life. I had celebrity clients. I had beautiful homes. I had every kind of car you can imagine. And I never paid attention to the issues plaguing the world because my life was good. And then in 2013, we lost our son. And when we lost our son, I stepped away and I came out to Vegas because my wife needed to get away. And I left somebody, in charge of my business who I thought I really trusted. And while I was gone, the person took me for millions of dollars and left me holding the bag. And when I went back to my business, I tried to clean up the mess, I realized that one of the things that he did was he didn't provide the bank titles for 5 cars that we had sold. I asked for an extension. This is a bank that I did millions upon millions of dollars worth of business with. And the bank said, absolutely not. No extension, not even 30 days. The bank cut me off. I lost my lines of credit. I lost my ability to write loans. The state suspended my license. And the feds figured now they get the chance to come after me for the second time. During that period, while my lawyers are trying to tell the feds, hold on, there's a lot more to the story. We can actually fix this issue. It's only an $800,000 issue. That's less than 1 week's worth of business. The guy's done millions upon millions with this bank. He's got assets. He's cash poor this week because he just blew through millions and millions were stolen. Nobody wants to listen. In the meantime, a judge asked me for a bribe and said, if you get charged and obviously more than likely your case is going to come into my courtroom, I'll make sure that you get bail and in 6 months, your case is dismissed. I said, I walked out of that meeting and I called one of my other lawyers because the meeting with the judge was set up through a new attorney of mine. And my lawyer that day said to me, he goes, Bobby, your life just ended today. Do you know any non-extradition countries? Because it's time to leave. Because they're going to come after you and they're going to come after you hard. This is payback for years ago. And this is payback for you going on and living your life and being successful. He goes, they don't like that. He goes, they don't like people that don't bow down and kiss the ring. And that day I became the FBI's most wanted fugitive. Now I'm giving you the cliff notes. There's a lot to it. Fast forward, for 5 years, I fought my case from Dubai. I probably go down as the only person in history that was the FBI's most wanted fugitive that tried to surrender 27 times. And the FBI turned me away. The Department of Justice turned me away. After 5 years of doing this, now these are all documented. My attorneys kept reaching out to the U.S. attorney. He's ready to surrender. But your case is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong. I went to the press. I went over and over again. Finally, I go to Fox News and said, I'm the FBI's most wanted fugitive, but I'm not in custody. I'm on social media. I'm picking up the phone, calling the U.S. attorney and recording the conversation and putting it online. And then the U.S. government goes out and says, we have no clue where he's at. We're trying to find him. And meanwhile, they're in contact with my attorneys. I'm calling them. So I finally put the U.S. attorney's phone number on Instagram and YouTube. I said, call this asshole. Call him up and say, why is Bobby not in custody? If you really have a case, lock him up. He's right here. And that didn't work. Fox News, that interview got butchered. And then finally, I stormed into an embassy and refused to leave. And after 8 hours of just refusing to leave, they finally arrested me, brought me back to America, and kept me in custody for 8 months. And then my lawyers come to me and said, they'll dismiss all the indictments as long as you plead guilty to one, and you can go home tomorrow. And I made the deal, and I walked out, and I was supposed to get sentenced in 2 months' time. Instead, I stayed on house arrest, home confinement, not house arrest. Home confinement is where I can't even walk out to my mailbox, on an ankle monitor for 32 months. And after 32 months, they told me, you're going to prison for 24 months. This judge looked at me and he goes, you haven't been taught a lesson yet. Even though I've lost my business, I've lost my home, I've lost my reputation. At this point, it was $156,000. That's what it came down to, right? $156,000 when I've done millions upon millions of business. And it could have been resolved because I had the assets. But this judge looks at me with a smug face and he says, I'm sending you to prison for 2 years. But I'll give you the credit for the 8 months that you served in custody. So you should probably only do 4 months. And the U.S. attorney high-fived the FBI agent and looked over at me and smiled. And at that point, I said, if this, excuse my French, if this asshole thinks that I'm going to be one of 80 million Americans that just goes away and just hides in a corner for the rest of my life, he's got something coming for him. I'm coming back, and I'm going to come back stronger than ever, and I'm going to fucking fight for everybody that doesn't have the voice. And, and I saw what they were doing to Trump during this time. I said, look at what this guy's a billionaire ex-president. If they can take him down, if they can try bankrupting him, you and I don't have a chance. The difference is people like me, we stand up and fight. I don't give a shit about money. I don't give a shit about my free. I will fight, unless you're going to put a bullet in my head, I'm going to continue to fight. But most people, when they get that knock at the door, they crumble. They don't know how to deal with the feds. They don't know how to deal with going into jail and spending one night there, or let alone years there. I've done it. Multiple times I had to deal with it, and I fought it. And I said, now I'm going to fight. And when I was done, by the way, before I go to prison, they told me I got to get vaccinated. If I don't get vaccinated, they're going to put me in maximum security. And I said, are you kidding me? I said, I don't want to get vaccinated. Well, if you don't get vaccinated, instead of going to a camp, we're going to send you to a higher security prison, and that's where you're going to have to serve your time. Well, the last thing I want to do is now go hang out with murderers because I didn't get vaccinated. So I was forced to get vaccinated. I go to prison. I'm supposed to serve 4 months in prison. They said they lost my paperwork. For 4 months, they lost my paperwork. I spent 4 months more than I was supposed to in prison, and then I'm released. And when I was released, I said, okay, these last 10 years, what I did was it opened my eyes to everything that's wrong with our system, from how we treat our veterans, to the red tape struggle, strangling our businesses, to, what they did to President Trump, prison, Justice Department. And I said, all right, you know what? I got involved in politics. I started talking to a lot of people. And one day my wife says to me, she goes, why don't you just run? She goes, you're yelling at the TV about all these weak candidates. She goes, you keep going to these meetings and you're yelling at them and saying, you fucking suck. You should be doing this and you should be doing this. And she goes, why can't you do it? And then one of the, a congresswoman who's pretty popular comes to town, and I spent the day with her, and she heard my story and she says, you should do something. You should come to DC. I said, with my record, with my headlines, you want me to go run for office? And she said, why not? She goes, my favorite president's an ex-felon.
Good timing. Bobby, John and KC over in the chat says, can Bobby please move to Kansas and be my congressman? This guy's awesome. Y2 Joe 1983 in the chat says, I'll be donating to his campaign, Balls of Steel.
Absolutely. Bobby Conn for Congress. Thank you.
Limited Access over in the chat says, man, Austin gets the best guests. He wants to know where you're running. That's in Nevada 1. That's the Las Vegas district.
Las Vegas.
Yeah, so Limited Access says they're going to share this with the Handy News. They're out there in Nevada. Yeah, guys, spread the word about Bobby Conn. It's amazing how one little podcast interview can change things a lot. So, Bobby, we're glad that you joined us today, and we're glad that you came on and shared our story with us. I think you should definitely cut this interview and post that on your website because
absolutely send me the link and I'll post it.
It looks like people really appreciate it and enjoyed it, Bobby. So, where can people find out more about your campaign?
It's BobbyConnForCongress.com. And, so it's Bobby Conn, KHAN for Congress.com. So listen, I'm very upfront. I'm very transparent. I sat down with the Republican Party and I said, I'm running this campaign my way. I'm not going to a consultant and say that consultant is not going to give me an agenda. It's my way or the highway. And I'm going to be upfront. This is who I am. I'm now a convicted felon. I'm one of 80 million Americans that has a criminal record. I've been to jail. I've been to this. I said, I'm taking all the ammo away from my opposition so they can't come out and say, did you know he's a convicted felon? Absolutely. I've already told you that. Now, let's focus on the issues.
Yeah. What do you think that they do to men with the beautiful blue eyes like that in jail? Watch out for Bobby Conn. Next time you're in Las Vegas, you might want to look him up.
I'm a different kind of guy. You can't do anything to me. I'm a brawler.
Bobby's a brawler. He's a fighter, former exotic car dealer, and prisoner, and he's now fighting for Congress. He's fighting for your freedom as well as his own. Check him out, Bobby Conn. That's KHAN. Hopefully, we'll have him back again on the show soon, and he'll be your next congressman from Nevada 1. We'll be spreading the word. Bobby, anything else you want to share before we let you go?
Yeah, you know what? I want to give a few highlights of what I'm standing for. Right. My wife comes from a big military family. I've seen what they've done to the military here. So one of the things I want to fight for is no taxes for veterans at all. If you serve this country, no income tax. I don't care if you go out and make $10 million or you make $10,000. You should never have to pay income tax again. I want to do something that the big, beautiful bill did not do is I want to fight for no taxes on gambling winnings. If you won something, it's yours, because what it does is it cuts red tape for casinos. It cuts red tape for all kinds of people. It's your money. You earned it. You put it back into the economy. And lastly, there's obviously a big agenda, but one of the other things is I want to fix antiquated laws. Basically, we put laws in the books, but we never go back and say, hey, let's fix this law and get it back up to time, because now time has evolved, like the cash reporting laws. Right now, you go to a bank with $10,000, they got to fill out paperwork. You go to a car dealership to buy a $15,000 car, you give them cash, they're going to do paperwork. What I want to do is, that law was put into effect in 1972. In 1972, you could have bought a house for $10,000. Today, you can't. I want to change that from $10,000 to $100,000. So if you walk into a bank with $95,000, guess what? They don't have to do paperwork. If you walk into a car dealership and you pay cash for $50,000, they don't have to do paperwork. It cuts the red tape that the businesses have to deal with. It takes away all the manpower that casinos and all these other places have to implement because of the paperwork that they have to do. It makes life easy for a lot of people. It's your money. You paid your taxes on it. You shouldn't feel like a criminal going to the bank.
It's Bobby Kahn. He's running for Congress in Nevada 1. You could follow him on X at I'm Bobby Kahn. Bobby, thanks so much for your time today. Good luck in your campaign. We'll check back on in pretty soon.
Have a wonderful day. Thank you, Austin.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Team you have, but and all these achievements that have happened domestically. But you think about it, under your leadership, we prevented and ended a war between India and Pakistan. NATO's now at 5% for the first time ever, the highest numbers ever. A peace deal between the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda. A 12-day war that ended with an American operation that we're the only country in the world that could have done. Hopefully, pretty soon, a peace deal between Azerbaijan and Armenia. The entire Middle East and the infrastructure of it has the potential now to change.
Man, Marco Rubio loves them foreign policy wins, don't he? All right, well, it's time for us to say goodbye. We started this morning with a question, though. What happens when the people who made their names fighting the swamp become the swamp? We called it the Conspiracy Boomerang, and it's not just clever branding. It's a law of political physics. You live by the deep state, you die by the deep state. Because for years, Donald Trump was the king of the conspiracy economy. He turned doubt into dollars. He turned suspicion into slogans. He turned shadowy elites into strawmen to punch every time he needed a boost. Let's not pretend this all began with Epstein. Trump was birtherism's biggest pitchman. He pushed the idea Obama wasn't born in America, then he dropped it like it never happened after 5 years of boosting himself on it. He repeated rumors that Ted Cruz's dad helped kill JFK, then smiled and shrugged like it was a joke. He told us that Joe Biden was controlled by shadow people, that Kamala wasn't eligible to run, that Hunter Biden was secretly funding Chinese bioweapons, and that SEAL Team 6 was assassinated to cover up a fake bin Laden raid. They did a body double there, Obama. He said the 2020 election was stolen. He said the 2012 election was stolen. He'll probably say that the 2028 election was stolen before it even happens. But now, suddenly, when it comes to one of the biggest pedophile blackmail rings in modern history, when it comes to a billionaire predator with ties to the rich, the powerful, and yes, to Trump himself, he wants us to just shut up and accept the government's word. Come on. We're now being told that by Trump's own people, there's no Epstein list. There was no blackmail operation. There's no reason to investigate anyone else. Oh, and by the way, Epstein definitely killed himself. That's the new line. Why are so many elites connected to Epstein and none were charged except for Maxwell? Why was their surveillance footage destroyed? Why were the guards asleep, both of them? Why was his cellmate pulled? Why are the flight logs still redacted? Why did he stop being useful right after Bill Barr took over the DOJ? And why does Trump want us to stop asking? Could it be that the client list includes people that we like? People with power, money, and influence on both sides? All right, this is the moment where the conspiracy culture that Trump built comes back around. He unleashed an army of citizens trained to, quote, question everything, but now they're questioning him. And that's why you see Laura Loomer, Alex Jones, and others turning on Trump World's insiders. They feel betrayed. They were promised justice. They were promised the list, and now they're told move along. Well, guess what? It doesn't fly, because when you feed people a steady diet of there's always more behind the curtain, you don't get to say, trust me, it's over. Not anymore. We now live in an era where nothing is believable, even when it's true. Why? Because both sides of the political spectrum have treated truth like a toy. Trump didn't invent this, but he monetized it. And here's the ultimate irony. Because when you normalize conspiracy thinking, you don't get to turn it off. It becomes a reflex. It becomes an identity. It becomes a demand for endless revelation, even if you have no more to reveal. So what happens now? Well, that depends on us. We can keep playing this game of who's lying, who's hiding, who's pulling the strings, or we can demand real accountability from everyone, not just the Bidens, not just the Clintons, not just them, all of them. If Epstein's clients didn't exist, then fine. We deserve to know the truth. But if they did exist, we deserve to know who they are, no matter what party they belong to. And if Trump and his people are lying about what they found, that they deserve the same scrutiny that they once pointed at everyone else. Because truth isn't tribal. And in the end, the truth will come out. Whether it comes gently or whether it comes like a boomerang to the face. That's our show today. You just unlocked the bonus content. Thanks to Joel Ledmore. You get to watch that, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. We started with conspiracies. We took a hard look at Todd Seavey talking about Zoran Mandani. We broke down SCOTUS with Judge Knapp. If you want more truth, more fire, more clarity, join me again tomorrow right here on the Wake Up America show. Bless you. Bless the United States of America. And if you're holding a boomerang, maybe check which direction you're facing before you throw it. See you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Let's talk about one of the greatest scams in American politics.
Here at Alligator Alcatraz, the fence keeps them in. But slip up, and you're on my plate.
Looks like breakfast is making a run for it. We got 3 hot meals trying to check out early from Alligator Alcatraz.
They can splash, they can sprint, but there's no escaping Alligator Alcatraz. Caught 2.
The third? Huh.
The swamp's got its own way of catching runaways.
Mama was wrong. Gators don't need toothbrushes. Just an honest job making America great again.